out the head. Man, he does some outstanding work. But he did a video. I'm gonna play a little bit of it. I don't suspect I'm gonna play all of it. But he did a video about a Secret Service agent, and the big news now is the Secret Service agent has been relieved of their duties. And as we watch this video, it's going to be very clear why that is the case. But man, I'd be really shocked if this ended up being a couple things. I'd be surprised if this was an isolated incident, for one. But I'd also be surprised if this person was acting on their own. Here's the video from James O'Keefe.
Your photo? You're so cute.
A current Secret Service agent on Vice President J.D. Vance's security detail.
When he's like walking, like, where are you?
We'll have a lease up in the head and
gives away vital high-level security information to our undercover journalists.
we have different shifts. We have shift.
Tells her about detailed future travel plans for the Vice President, and even sends her pictures with location metadata revealing where the President's convoy was located, potentially violating both the Secret Service NDA and United States federal law. Tomas is fully aware of this. Quote, I signed paperwork, so if I don't have to get out information, I never do, otherwise I get in trouble. You really have to stand in awe of the lack of self-awareness.
They know secret about what we do.
Tomas Escato also reveals that he voted for Biden and that he hates Trump and Vance's immigration policies.
Did you vote for Biden?
Yes, I did actually.
What do you think about like all the ICE stuff going on?
I hate that shit.
Yeah.
They're employing taxes that shouldn't be employed.
You may have seen reports last week that someone attempted to break into Vice President J.D. Vance's home in Ohio. That incident prompted us to take a closer look. What we found in our investigation was an agent inside the Vice President's detail who is actually revealing to a total stranger that the Vice President will be visiting his home in Ohio days ahead of time. And while what you're about to see is an important story, the security of the Vice President and his family is our top priority. Now, under normal circumstances, our editorial policy is to request comment a day or two before a report airs. But in this case, we contacted the Secret Service a full week in advance of this report to ensure that nothing we report here would compromise the Vice President's safety in any way. But even with those precautions, what we uncovered is troubling, and we felt this is important for you all to see. We hope that bringing this to light strengthens security and helps prevent future vulnerabilities in our government.
Can I just say, I know every time we play one of these videos from James O'Keefe, and it's every once in a while, I just love the way that these come together, because it's always a super desperate guy, and like, and obviously we never see the girl, but what I'm presuming is like just a 7. Just like an average girl giving this guy attention, and like the distances they will travel to get the attention from the women that James O'Keefe put in front of these people is fucking astonishing to me. This guy is in the Secret Service, and he is literally handing out the locations of the Vice President of the United States of America. Quite frankly, my guess every time we see one of these is simply just so he can get laid. I mean, I'm guessing that's all it is. We've seen CEOs of companies come out, high-ranking officials in the medical community, doctors and lawyers and all these people, other politicians. Like, the amount of people, heads of like Pfizer and all this shit, every single time it's the same playbook. And these people are so unaware, apparently. Like, there's nothing that tips them off. Like, this random girl is like suddenly interested in them. They I'm guessing tend to get not very much attention, which is why they spill all of this information the second someone gives them attention. And yet they're not even a little self-aware, like, This seems a little suspicious. Normally, I don't get this kind of attention. I don't know. I feel like it would probably be somewhat obvious, but that's just me from the outside looking in.
Can I see your badge again with your photo? You said you were training. It was your training?
Yeah, that's like 4 years ago.
You're so cute.
We met Thomas on the dating app Tinder in October of 2025.
Fucking Tinder. Tinder. The Secret Service agent is on Tinder trying to get laid. And the second a girl is interested, the very second a girl is interested, he's like, I'm just going to tell her everything. I just need to get laid. Craziness. Madness.
Secret Service agent is a holdover from the Biden administration. He was actually originally tasked with protecting Kamala Harris and Doug Emhoff. In fact, he sent us this image from a Christmas party in December of 2020.
Also, I don't know if that's... I don't really know the ins and outs specifically. I'm curious if that's normal. Is it common to have the same Secret Service agents from administration to administration? I don't know if that's a typical thing, but to me, maybe not. Maybe I'm looking into it too much now that because we have the information in front of me, but it seems like that could be problematic. Maybe that's usually not the case. I'm sure most of these people in the Secret Service are fairly upstanding people. I'm sure this guy is an outlier, but I don't know. I don't know if I would like that. If I was JD Vance and you're like, yeah, this guy protected Kamala Harris, I'd be like, I'm good. I'm good. Find me somebody else.
2024, there he is with Kamala Harris.
How did you get picked to do like vice president?
Not by choice. It's just they talk to you and they let you know. It's like, hey, eventually you're gonna have to go down to DC.
Okay.
All roads lead to DC. So you can go to the president's detail, the vice president's detail. What we call counter surveillance division. So that's undercover stuff.
Note the irony. He's talking about undercover counter surveillance to a journalist wearing a hidden camera. Tomas Escato is often directly involved in the vice president's transportation to and from his residence at the Naval Observatory, surveillance of the vice president's residence, and even protecting Vance's wife, Usha Vance, and their children. Here he complains again to a total stranger he just met about his assignment involving J.D. Vance's children.
So what are his kids like?
We went to school with them.
Oh.
Yeah, and we follow them everywhere. There's a
Wow.
24/7. There is no last coverage. Not like a babysitter, but it's a weird one that we always talk about. Like, what is this? But you can't do nothing.
Oh, you can't do anything.
No, we can't do anything.
Tomas
I don't know what he means by he can't do anything. I'm not sure what he's getting at. He can't do anything? Like what does that even mean? I don't think that's surprising either, right? Like obviously you would protect their entire family. I think that's very common sense.
proceeds to give our undercover journalist detailed info with pictures about the specific methods used to transport and protect the vice president. It even tells her some exact times of shift changes on the Secret Service schedule.
So like when he's like walking, like where are you? Just following.
Group of us, we surround, make a moment.
Yeah.
We'll have at least a minimum head and now that I'm on the vice president's actual details, a little different because we have different shifts. We have shift.
Via text.
I like that they redacted the amount of shifts, but then he continued to say that there were 3 different shifts. It almost completely cancels out the first redaction.
J.D. Vance's Secret Service agent informs the stranger when he has picked up J.D. Vance's wife and even mentions that he and Vance are currently at... Tomas even sends a selfie from inside a J.D. Vance's residence at the Naval Observatory. It's basically a secure location while the Secret Service is surveilling the vice president's home. Now, while he's supposed to be guarding the vice president's property, Tomas is busy snapping selfies, texting our journalist. Now, here's a picture that Tomas sent us taking off from Joint Base Andrews Air Force Base. You see the convoy vehicle going into the airplane, and some of these photos even had location metadata baked in the photos. It's worth mentioning.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious why this guy got fired. I would really like to hope that most of the Secret Service is much better than this. But if they're not, it's no wonder the president got shot at a rally. It's no wonder JD's house was vandalized recently. It's funny that while I'm watching this, I know we've been harping on Dan Bongino, and it's funny every time you rag on Dan Bongino, somebody will come to his defense and tell you that he served in the Secret Service and he's a noble servant of the government. So surely you're not allowed to question him in any way.
That these pictures were taken a few months prior to sending them to our journalist. While they didn't give away the vice president's location in real time, they did give away certain routes that were used and the number of vehicles in the convoy, information which could be used in the future. This is a photo Tomas sent us from King Khalid International Airport in Saudi Arabia. Here's a photo Tomas sent us loading the convoy into an aircraft at Munich Airport in Germany, where Vice President Vance gave a speech to the Munich Security Council. Again, metadata there on the photo. Another image revealing the exact location at the presidential helicopter at JFK in New York. And we think perhaps most significant here, revealed the location where President Trump's convoy was driving through Emirates Palace in Abu Dhabi, May 2025. This convoy was transporting President Trump for a state visit with the UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan.
That is madness. That's absolute craziness. I'd be, I don't know. I'd be curious to think what everyone thinks about this. Does everyone think this is like a one-off, just one Secret Service agent just trying to get laid on Tinder, giving up all this information? Do you think it's deeper than that, or do you really think it's just like severe incompetence of this one employee of the Secret Service? I think in this specific case, I don't know. Maybe it does. It does kind of reek of just like complete pathetic man. I don't know. It really does. Like this. Every time we get these James O'Keefe videos, it really does. It's just always the same. It's the same thing every time. It's like this guy with this immense power, or wealth of knowledge, or whatever the case may be, and they just send this like girl in on a date or meet them at a bar or something, and they immediately just tell them everything. And what did the Secret Service agent even think? Like, oh, if I send pictures of like JD Vance's Tahoe, she's going to be super impressed and want to sleep with me. These people are fucking just, it's sad. It's really kind of sad, honestly, that is the just the way society is going. I think that watching these people in these positions, you would think they'd be of a higher stature than that. I mean, the fact that they're so easily blackmailed is actually completely pathetic. You can go watch the rest of this video at O'KeefeMediaGroup.com, or go to X and watch the same video I just watched. And just keep an eye. I mean, I always like to watch out for James O'Keefe, because he always seems to come up. He's always got videos like that coming out. I mean, whether it's once a month or once every couple months or whatever the case may be, his stuff's great. So I would definitely highly recommend you go follow James O'Keefe. Moving on from the James O'Keefe Secret Service, JD Vance Secret Service member story. The View never seems to disappoint. There's a clip circulating, and it's Oprah Winfrey. Jesus Christ. I don't really know, like, if she considers this medical advice. I certainly wouldn't take it if it was given to me.
Years, I thought I was overeating. I was standing there with all the food noise, what I ate, what I should eat, how many calories was that, how long was it going to take. I thought that was because of me and my fault. Yeah. Now I understand that if you carry the obesity gene, if that is what you have, that is what makes you overeat. You don't overeat and become obese. Right. Obesity causes you to overeat. Right. Obesity causes you to have all of that food noise. And what the GLP-1s have done for me, and I know a number of other people, is to quiet that noise. Yeah.
You just got to quiet down that food noise. That's all. Yeah, it's just a little bit of, these people just have they have the obesity gene. You just sometimes you got to live with the old obesity gene, and the obesity gene just makes you want to eat. It's fascinating that we all just learned about the obesity gene recently, because back in the day, it didn't seem like a lot of people had the obesity gene, especially when let's go back hundreds of years, right? How many people were obese? Like almost no people were obese. And obesity in some cultures was a sign of mass wealth and power, because you would have to have that type of wealth or power to become obese, because it's the result of overconsumption. And only the wealthy or the powerful could overconsume, not the rest of the peasants. And it's fascinating because in her worldview, Oprah's, that would actually change what everyone thought, and it would all be coincidental. And all those people would just happen to have the obesity gene, and none of the peasants would have the obesity gene. It's all coincidental. This is actually one of the most retarded things I've ever heard. Honestly, I truly mean that. I've heard some really dumb stuff. This is up there. If it's not one, it's a top 5. Fat people have the obesity gene, and it causes them to overeat. And she truly believes this. It sounds like she truly believes this. So she doesn't think it's the other way around. She doesn't think overeating causes obesity. She doesn't think obesity is the result of an action. She thinks it is just a happenstance. It's a genetic malfunction. Now I'll say this: there are certainly are diseases that do make it harder to lose weight, and there are some that actually make it harder to gain weight, and that's a very real thing. But even those people can overcome that by doing the same things that we do. They just might have to work a little bit harder at it. And in the most basic senses, for anyone who truly feels like maybe they're just like a little overweight, those people can follow a very simple recipe on average. I'm speaking with complete averages. I'm not looking at the weird, blips in data. I'm talking about by and large majority average. The average person could do a very simple calorie deficit without even completely changing their lifestyle. Now, a lot of times obesity is also tied in with people who are not very active. So I would highly recommend they just get active, because that will help. It's usually a combination of things. Not only are they inactive, they also overeat, right? Or have the obesity gene, as Oprah would put it. And yeah, by combining those two things, eating less, just watching, just paying attention in general, and becoming more active, you will very quickly and very easily, again, speaking averages, will overcome obesity. And why would that be, Oprah? How would people lose weight naturally if they have the obesity gene that Oprah is describing? Because if the obesity gene just makes you overeat, How would you overcome that naturally? So in her worldview here, she's now looking at those medical, are they called GLP-1s, I believe, like the Ozempic, for example. That's the only answer. Now instead of natural calorie counting becoming more active, the only answer is what? It's big pharma. You must now get on the new medication. Now get on Ozempic because it's not your fault you have the obesity gene. And now because of this, I'm torn between two possibilities. I'm torn that she's either retarded and she actually believes this, or she's pushing this on behalf of big pharma, which I'm sure advertises all over ABC. And I'm open to either possibility. I'm not taking either off the table. I really don't know if she truly believes what she just said. But if she does, wow. Because it's a logic trail that is so riddled with holes. Again, very basic stuff. The average person can very easily lose weight. Yes, there are outliers. There are people with legitimate medical conditions that make it more difficult to lose weight. Not impossible, more difficult. Just like there are people with medical conditions that make it more difficult, not impossible, to gain weight, because that's also a problem that people have. The obesity gene thing to me is just absolute insanity. There's no way people bought that, or any possible way people actually think this. It doesn't make any logical sense in the slightest. But maybe that's just me. I don't know. Could be just me, but I legitimately am astonished that she said that. I'm really kind of blown away. Updated news on the ICE situation in Minneapolis. We have talked about it and we've been following it every step of the way. We typically don't follow these kinds of things, but this one seemed to stand out for one reason or the other. And you know, again, we've been following this kind of since the beginning, and the whole time I've been saying it is of my opinion. Now, from the first video we saw, the first angle we saw, it seemed to me and many people, and it seemed pretty obvious that she had sped off and hit him with a car. And the result of him being hit by a car was him trying to stop her from hitting him with a car. So he fired multiple rounds through the windshield to extinguish the threat. And I've always said, when it comes to any form of police violence, my through line, and it's very consistent, has always been, if I can legitimately feel like he felt like he was in danger, he also has an entitlement to life. He also has the right to self-defense. In this situation, I did not think this was police brutality. I did not think this was over-the-top police violence. I think he was defending himself because he was getting hit by a car. To me, it was very obvious. And people said, no. That's not the situation. You could see she was turning the steering wheel, blah, 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 blah. Then the body cam footage came out from the officer who was hit. And again, it seems very obvious, more obvious now than the first video, that he clearly was hit with a car. You can clearly hear the car accelerate. You can see the car accelerate. You can hear a thud. He is hit. He is hit by the car. It is a 2-ton vehicle accelerating. He clearly acted in self-defense. People say, no. She was turning the steering wheel. She was trying to get away from him. He called her a fucking bitch. Okay. Then a news report comes out that shows the same officer a year ago was dragged by a vehicle trying to execute a stop. So again, now we're getting more of a psychological background. We have the physical kind of proof of what's going on. We have the psychological background. Now we know the same guy was already dragged by a car and he's being attacked again by a car. At some point, he's probably over it. People are still in denial. So the news story is coming out now, today. The ICE agent who fatally shot Renee Good on January 7th in Minneapolis, Jonathan Ross, suffered internal bleeding to the torso following the incident, according to 2 U.S. officials briefed on his medical condition. So I would love to hear from the naysayers. Now we have multiple angles from multiple cameras showing that he was hit by a car. We have the audio from his body cam and the visual from his body cam where you can clearly tell he was hit by a car. And now we have medical proof that he has internal bleeding because he was hit by a car. They're lying to you. Oh my God. There's no way you actually believe that. I cannot. I just can't. Use your own senses. They don't have to lie or tell the truth. You can see and hear him hit by a car. Yes, he has internal bleeding. Of course he does. Because he was hit by a fucking car. It's thousands of pounds driving at a rate of velocity. It is going to happen. I promise you, if you get hit by a car, it's going to cause damage. Cars are bigger than people. They hurt. I don't know how much more this needs to be explained. Honestly, it's it's really quite that simple. I don't know. I like if you're completely defending this to the end, honestly, I need to know like what would be. You have to at least have to set a standard. I would love to know from the people who are defending this, who are in denial that he was hit by a car, who are in denial from the footage of multiple cameras, from the sound of him being hit by a car, from the medical briefing that he has internal bleeding. I'm curious if there is any single thing that would convince you he was hit by a car. And if the answer is no, then like there's no point in having the debate. Because I don't know how much more proof you need somebody was hit by a car. This wasn't an eyewitness testimony and we have to just trust the eyewitness testimony. We have many angles of camera footage. It's very obvious. Like there really honestly is no debate here. The fact that people are trying to debate it, I really don't know what you're trying to get at. I'm okay. I understand. I've heard this point, and I'm actually very empathetic to this point. I've heard people say, like, yes, he was hit by a car, and, maybe, yes, the shooting was self-defense, but it still is sad that this woman died. And for that, I'm completely on board. It's 100% correct. It's always sad when you have a life lost. But the angle of it wasn't a justified shooting, to me, I really don't know how you can get behind that. To me, it's a completely unjustifiable position. It's completely untenable. There was a Supreme Court ruling. Speaking of, and here, listen, just I'm not doing this to be devil's advocate. I'm not doing this to say like I play both sides. I'm doing this to kind of I'm really just talking about this because this is the news. But again, I've always held the position that if you could show me within some reasonable amount that it appeared to be like a self-defense, I'm going to be on board every time. However, in this particular case, the Supreme Court ruled 9-0 that a warrantless welfare check, and the situation that had brought this about was a police shooting of Trevor Case in his own home was justified in Case versus Montana. Now, the situation appears for those who don't know the story. It appears that there was a warrantless search of a home in Montana in which resulted in shooting of somebody. And I got to tell you, that's a different situation. That's a completely different situation. The the police do not have authority over your property. They do not have the free capability to just enter your home as they wish. They cannot enter your car as they wish. They cannot take your property as they wish. There has to be checks and balances. I can't get on board in pretty much any situation with the police entering someone's home without that person's authorization. I certainly can't get behind it. I really, really can't get behind it if we're talking about entering the home without even a warrant. Now, remember the to go big picture on this. The way the Patriot Act was sold to people was that, yes, this group could spy on all your information. Yes, this group the NSA could spy on Americans and gather all their information, their location data, mass metadata. Yes, they will be able to literally read all of your text messages and emails and listen to your phone calls. But it's only, right, this was how the Patriot Act was sold. It's only if there's a warrant, if there's probable cause, if we believe you're a domestic terrorist or you're associated with terrorists, right? This is following 9/11. And of course, it's the only way to keep the homeland safe, right? This is how it was sold. And then thanks to people like Edward Snowden, it was revealed that the NSA was just wildly overusing their power. There was warrantless taps. The information was just accessed at will, which was completely not how it was sold. And it was completely predictable, of course. But that's very similar to this. Yeah, there's going to be situations where you have to enter somebody's home. If there's a reasonable assumption that they have committed a crime and they do need to be detained. And there will be situations where that's going to be the case. And you need to check that power as much as possible. So the Supreme Court ruling today that found that this was completely justified is a slippery slope. It does make you less free in every definition of the word. So this particular case is not something that I can get on board with. Again, with that said, I play these things case by case. Shorter show today, not a ton of massive news, but I did want to end it on a high note. I have to say, I don't follow all like the streamers. It seems like there's new streamers like literally every day. Like every day, it seems like there's some new guy that comes out. And some of them definitely tend to hold a lot more popularity and a lot more pull than others. Obviously, there's people like I Show Speed out there who seem to have such a massive following, and in a lot of cases, I don't tend to understand where some of their following comes from, if I'm honest. And Kai Cenat was one of those people. When I saw like clips of the streams he was doing or whatever, I understood the entertainment value and all that, and I could see why people would watch, but I never really understood it. And to me, without knowing anything beyond like some of the clips I had seen, I thought, yeah, he's just another fucking streamer who gives a shit. And I will say that was early on. And I didn't really have any like respect for what he was doing in the slightest. But I have seen a couple other clips come out, and we actually played one of them recently. It was him talking about his mental health, and I thought that was really it was super powerful. It was interesting to see a streamer of that stature, like with that much following, to be that vulnerable with people publicly. I thought that was different. It was unique. Um, he's also openly many times talked about God, which I thought was definitely unique and different for a streamer of that size. But there was another clip circulating, and I saw people. I'm going to play it in a minute here, but I saw people actually being very negative with him about this clip. You know, a lot of shit talking, a lot of jokes being made, which whatever, I make jokes all the time. But to me, I don't understand why. And I think a lot of people were maybe they're missing something, they're missing a point that I'm seeing, and there have been people who have been positive about this too, don't get me wrong, it's not all been negative. But I actually really like this clip. It's another case of him kind of showing a little bit of vulnerability. And I also think this is very powerful going forward if this continues and maybe more people come out and more people show support of this. I actually think it's really powerful for Black culture, which I think could be a good thing in this country. A little bit of a culture shift. I like that he's clearly trying to self-improve. He's been talking about with people. He's been running around and he's been telling people that he's been doing a little like reading. He's not much. He said he wasn't much of a reader, but he's doing like 20, 30 minutes of reading a day to make him a better speaker. And a clip because of that came out where he is trying to read. He doesn't know the word. So he goes to his phone to not only learn what the word means, but also how to properly pronounce the word, which I think is really cool. I'm going to put the clip on. I'm actually a really big fan of this.
Spontaneity. How do I pronounce that? Spontaneity. Oftentimes when I don't know what a word is pronounced, I get to look at how it's pronounced and what it even means.
Spontaneity.
The condition of being spontaneous. Spontaneity. And spontaneity of life. Hardly such questions set up a false what does that mean?
Dichotomy.
A false dichotomy. What does that mean? A dichotomy. A division or contrast between two things that are or represented as being opposed or entirely different. Repeated branching into two equal.
I think there's something else. There's one other thing to be said about this clip, and then I think we're going to head out. It also shows to me, again, I really like this clip. I like that he's trying to self-improve at that level. Self-improvement is something that is highly overlooked, that everyone should do. But it also shows to me there is a clear failure of the educational system that he should already have some of this, right? He should have this level. The fact that he's going through it now on his own to do this is very impressive for him, but it's also very shameful on the education system. And I'm glad he's doing it. But where was the educational system in all of this? How did they fail at such a massive level? And this isn't specific to him. I think this is big picture because we do see tons of different metrics, statistics, analytics, data that show the public school system in our country is absolutely abysmal. It's horrible. And we spend way more than most nations on school per student. Way more. It's like not even close. Because what we have here, and I probably shouldn't say this because I don't even know how Europe operates, right? I'm sure Europe has teachers unions too, but the teachers unions here are an absolute joke. They are 100% teachers first, students last. And it's really sad that it is that way. And that, again, I'm speaking in averages. I'm not speaking about outliers. There are good teachers out there that actually care about their students. But man, the vast majority couldn't care less. They're picking up paychecks. It's really sad. It's really sad. And yet they have the audacity to complain they don't get paid enough. Paid for what? So this guy can turn to his phone, to Siri, to learn how to read? Years removed from school? How much money do you want? What's a fair wage for a teacher that doesn't get paid on production? Because I tell you what, if I was in charge of the school system, 100% you're paid on results. I am not paying you to exist. I'm not paying you for tenure. I'm paying you on your results. Because if you're not getting results, you're not really doing us any good. You're not doing the kids any good. You're not doing our future any good. And if we fail them at a young age, then they fail for life. It's such a large responsibility that I don't even think most teachers fully grasp. Again, there's plenty of good teachers out there, but I don't think it's the majority. Actually, the one thing I really like, we've talked about Neil deGrasse Tyson on this program, and certainly politically, me and him are complete opposites. But I do love science, so I'm not going to lie. I do love a lot of his breakdowns on science. But Neil deGrasse Tyson, one thing he has always been completely correct about is the education system in this country, and about how teachers go about everything the wrong way, and why they go about things the wrong way. It's how it's incentivized. But if you don't have your students excited, and maybe I'm the wrong guy to deliver this message, and maybe Neil deGrasse Tyson is a much better person to deliver this message, because I have never been in the educational system. I'm not a teacher. I never want to be a teacher. But if you don't have your students excited to learn, if you don't find that spark, if you don't find what excites each individual person, because they're not all the same, then you're only going to survive on averages. You're only going to succeed because they happen to succeed. But you're never going to get the difficult students, right? Maybe some need a little bit extra attention. And I said to Ryan, I believe this might have been yesterday. If I'm a teacher and I know by and large most of the students, let's say half of the students, really without any extra effort, are probably going to pass anyway. Maybe they come from very good homes. Maybe they just have a little bit of natural intelligence that not everybody has. Like I said, coming from good homes is a big thing. Maybe the parents are paying attention and making sure they're doing their homework and making sure they're studying for tests and making sure they're learning and they're involved in their learning. if 50% of your students are that person and they're probably going to pass regardless, then your time and energy should be heavily focused on the other 50%. And that energy, it should be a sliding scale. For those who are going to struggle the most are the ones who need and demand more of your focus. And those are the ones that you need to find that spark, because it's not the same as everybody else. I know I was not a good student in school. I didn't really care about school, had no interest in learning things at school. Just going to show up and go home. Liked hanging out with people, right? Loved doing all the things, but didn't really want to learn anything. Wasn't super interested in it. But I did have a couple classes that I actually liked. And believe it or not, those classes I did well because I liked them, because they were interesting to me. History being one of them. I think history is interesting. I think science is interesting. I don't think math is interesting. I think I happen to be good at math, but I don't particularly think it's interesting. But for those people, there's somewhere deep down something that would interest them, but you have to find out what that is. And it's not easy. I don't want to make it sound like this is easy to do. But it does require you trying and caring as a teacher. This person that I'm watching on stream, Kai Sanat, looks interested. He looks willing. He wants to learn. Maybe this is a new, more mature version of himself in school. I'm sure he's grown up quite a bit. But he doesn't look to me like a guy who would be a bad student the way he is now. And maybe there's millions of kids watching him learn, watching him get excited learning, that are now getting excited too. And maybe, like I said, that's a culture shift that if that happens, we need to welcome that with wide open arms. That would be a massive shift for the country. Having a culture of young kids who want to learn. And if we can pair that with good families, the nuclear family. We talked about this many times, but the attacks and the destruction on the nuclear family is way more detrimental to society than almost anything I can list. This is something we need to return to. We need to get back to a good nuclear family. We need to get people excited about learning. We need to get serious about the educational system of this country, because it's a joke. And it does not come with more money. It comes with more focus, with more care, with more thought. It comes by getting the right people in the right places. Not everybody should be a teacher. Just like not everybody should be a plumber, not everyone should be an electrician, not everybody should be a doctor, not everybody should be a streamer. I like this clip. For those of you who have Wi-Fi or wireless signal and aren't on Verizon's network, which, by the way, the Verizon thing, I don't know. Like, we talked about this. we talked about this when who was the other company? Was it AT&T like a year ago? Maybe it was a little more than a year ago. And they said it was just a simple software update, and I went, no way a software update caused that. And then they went after the fact. They admitted, yeah, there was a hack. It's got to be a hack, right? The Verizon service going down like this has got to be some form of cyber attack. I've been with Verizon for, I don't know, 15, 20 years maybe. I've had Verizon, and I don't remember the wireless signal going out. There is something there. It's more than a failed software update. It's not one tower that went down. We're talking about nationwide shortages. There's something there. So if you do happen to have a service right now and you're watching the show, I appreciate like, comment as always. Be ready. We'll be around again tomorrow at 8:30. Maybe Ryan will be with us. Maybe he will have cell service. I don't really know. I don't particularly know, but I do know that I do appreciate everybody coming and watching. Thank you all. We'll see you tomorrow.